Hello, everybody. I am so excited today because we have as our guest Dr. Lara Salyer, who is an award winning small town family physician who interestingly resigned from her employed position in 2016 to open her own holistic medical practice in functional medicine. And she's a very dynamic person, and she's written a book called Right Brain Rescue. And we'll talk a little bit about that when I invite her to join us in a minute. But I hope that if you're on live with us, that you'll take the time to post comments or ask questions, and we'll do our very best to answer those questions as we go along. So let's welcome Dr. Salyer.
Hello, Dr. Wanda. How are you?
I am really good. It's a beautiful day here in Colorado, and
wonderful. Well, it's rainy here in Wisconsin, but hey, at least it's not, negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're good.
Yeah, I lived in Madison for about a year and a half, and bad winters.
It is. Although we like to say there's no such thing as a bad winter. It's just poor fashion choices. So you can always get warmer,
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start by telling us a little bit about your story. I think that's the best way to start,
Absolutely.
How did you move from the traditional medical system into where you are now, and a little bit about your path, okay?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think humans really connect with stories, don't we all? And a story anchors that experience because we're all living on this earth in several different ways of our journeys forward, and everybody's touched by burnout. Whether it's a burnout in your career, you can suffer burnout in your relationships or in parenting, or, just burnout is that feeling of depersonalization and emotional exhaustion and feeling like what you do doesn't really matter. And I was shocked to find myself in a burned out situation. I really enjoyed rural family medicine and felt like I was that gritty Gen Xer who could adapt to all the technologies. I wanted to be a super user in our computer, electronic medical records. I tried to do all the things to prevent burnout. And yet there I was going to work every day that I wasn't making really a true difference in my patients' lives. So in 2016, I knew that I had to do something different, but I didn't know what. And sometimes that's the first step of anybody's journey. And if you're listening now, you're watching, and you're wondering if you're burned out, sometimes just awareness can be curative. You can reflect on your own situation and say, I may not know where I'm going to be yet, but I know that right now doesn't feel good. And so my solution was notifying my employer that I was going to be resigning, and I gave them about 9 months and said, I'll be resigning at the end of the year. And I didn't quite know yet. I knew that something had to change. So in an attempt to burn up some last ditch CME credits, continuing medical education, I went to a seminar, and it was a 5-day AFMCP, Applying Functional Medicine in Clinical Practice. I had no idea. It just promised yoga, organic eating, and some holistic education. I thought, well, I've always, being a DO, loved holistic philosophy and dabbled a little bit in learning about supplements, but never really intentionally studied it. And by day 2, I was hooked. By day 2, I could see my world unfold. And that's the thing about investigating burnout in your own world, is when you're going through this journey, you start to make better intuitive decisions on what feels good. And just recognizing that, I felt like I was at home. So I knew right there, my world laid out in front of me. And I said, I want to do this. I want to have this ability to help my community in such a different way.
Yeah, I started my functional medicine journey by reading Mark Hyman's book, Ultra Mind Wellness. Mm-hmm. And I thought, gosh, this makes sense. Wow, I want to learn more. So that's how I got started. And gradually over the few years of doing all the courses, I finally took my exam about a year and a half ago. Hardest exam I've ever taken, but I passed. And anyway, it's a wonderful thing. So tell us a little bit more about this creativity that we need to bring into our life to make us feel more alive.
Right. It's a natural fit because we are all creative at our core. If you were to poll a room full of kindergartners, they would all raise their hands if you asked how many of you are artists. think 100% would raise their little hands. But then fast forward to adulthood, and a lot of us don't feel that we earned the title as a creative person, or maybe it's only for those that are talented, or I don't have that, it's not in my family, or it's something that you must wait for, like a muse. And what really is interesting is creativity is in us all the time, 24/7. And the connection of the power of that creative flow state is what helped me with burnout. As I was feeling disconnected from my career, I started running more. I started painting, drawing more, and doing things that just felt good and fun. And I noticed that after that, I had better well-being, less stress. I was able to make better decisions. And so when we investigate it, it makes sense neurologically. There are so many things going on in your brain. It's the only time your brain produces all 5 neurochemicals of happiness. And that effect is long lasting. So imagine the power if we could help educate people on the importance of tapping into that internal flow state and putting that on a foundation of good functional medicine principles, like a healthy gut, good mitochondria, sleep patterns, and exercise. I mean, we would all be unstoppable.
Absolutely. To me, it's the foundation of life itself, is the ability to use your imagination to create the life that you really want to live. And that really pulls in all of your health aspect too.
Absolutely.
When I have patients who need to lose some weight and they get so discouraged, I just say, imagine yourself trimmer. Imagine yourself being able to move in ways that you haven't been able to or don't think you can. Imagine how you can create beautiful meals with all the wonderful foods that we have to choose from. So,
right. If you follow any of the work like by Dr. Joe Dispenza or Dr. Seligman, I mean, he's big in positive psychology and, and has a lot of evidence-based tools like the PERMA model. And they talk about our thoughts literally can make our future. They make our reality. They can shape our past. And so really, it's not to be dismissive of anybody out there that might be listening and saying, well, I have unfortunate chronic diseases I did not choose. My thoughts did not choose this, but your thoughts can shape the reaction that happens in your body. And it can help make the environment a more of a healing environment or supportive environment that really can help all the symptoms improve.
Yeah. And, I've written so many times about your attitude and keeping positive mindset. It does have an impact on your physiology. And we know that. It actually is what turns on genes and turns them off. So anyway, the reason we do this group is just to give a broad perspective of all the possibilities that we have in life. And it's not just in whether you take XYZ supplement. Okay. It's the total bag. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you think functional medicine can be transformational for people?
Oh, yes. And it's to piggyback off of what you had just said, that it isn't a one-way dogmatic view, right? I mean, medicine is personalized. It should be for everybody. So like Mr. Rogers would say, whenever there's a tragic event happening, look for the helpers. That's Mr. Rogers always said that. Look for the helpers. And I feel like that is what we can do in functional medicine. We have the ability to take a step back and have a lot more tools at our disposal, looking for the helpers that might resonate with that unique patient's physiology. Acupuncture is a great modality, but it might not be right for that person at the time right now, but maybe in a year it will. But being aware of a lot of these modalities and trying them on. When I talk to patients, I try to explain that it may work now and it might stop working, but it doesn't mean it's a failure. You're always a constant science experiment, and to approach your health like a child with curiosity and wonder and tapping into all of those things that kind of feel good to you. If it feels good to draw or doodle or sing karaoke in the shower, do it. If it feels good to take a walk, but yet all your friends are saying you need to go to the gym and you don't like that, go do the walk. Do what feels good to you. We're not here to suffer. We're here to enjoy our life on this earth.
Absolutely. And that is so true. A few weeks ago, I had an interview with a Tai Chi teacher. And, that is a very gentle movement and it gets the energy flowing. It increases your lymphatics. And there's so many wonderful ways that we can help people. But, the thing I love about functional medicine is that when you look at the way the matrix is laid out and realize that everything is connected. I think about that all the time. Everything is connected. Somebody will come in and say, well, I have a headache. Do you think that has anything to do with my bloating? And I go, yes, in some way. It may not always be obvious, but in some way, everything is connected. So,
and I think that's the big beauty, but also a double-edged sword of a challenge for functional medicine, because unfortunately, in the way that our culture is in Western medicine, it's been very much a pill for an ill for decades. And unfortunately, then you have now functional medicine, holistic medicine, and sometimes patients are looking for that same kind of philosophy. Instead of a pill for an ill, it's what's up for what's up. What's the supplement for my ailment? What can I use? And it's not that easy, and everything is connected. So that starts to be that tip of the iceberg where people just want to get, well, let me know what you think. Kind of like, taking your car in to check the transmission. Oh, just tell me what you think I can do to fix that squeaky sound. But everything's connected. So it's not easy to swap one thing. We're looking at your gut. We're looking at your sleep habits, your thoughts, your mitochondria, your, mold and mycotoxins. And not that we have to have it all balanced perfectly, but one tug on that spider web can help, arrange the rest of your body to feel better.
Yeah. And that idea of everything has to be perfect. I tell folks, I said, you're a human being. I'm a human being. Sometimes I don't eat the right food. I may pay for it the next day, but I know I've got information, because food is information. And, if my body doesn't want dairy, I should avoid it. So anyway, let's see. Say a little bit more about your book, your wonderful book.
Oh, well, first, thank you for reading and supporting it. Thank you.
Couldn't put it down.
Well, thank you.
It brought back so many horrendous memories of going to medical school.
Right. Yes. It was just a labor of love. There's a lot of stories that never made it to the pages, but the purpose of that book was really to just be a story that people could relate to on some level. So whether you're also a granddaughter of a funeral director and can laugh at some of those stories, or that you've been through a medical school type training, or that you've been married, or that you have children and you've balanced a work life, existence, it's all in there. And it was just my way of showing people that you're not alone, and I've had so many people I've never met reach out and say, that was awesome to read, that these thoughts I'm having as well. And not to say that my way is the one way out of burnout, but it's just one evidence and one story of how you can take command of your life and try something new. So in my memoir, I'm very candid and I use humor to showcase like all the thoughts that happened. You trade one set of problems and you're going to have another. I mean, being a medical entrepreneur is not easy. And yet it was perfect for me at the right time, and I kind of talk, if you ever want to slip into the shoes of what it would be like to start from scratch and make your own world, this is what it's like. It kind of shows you from the time I turn the key into the office that's blank and empty. And I'm thinking, what did I just do? I left my job and now I have this empty office. I have no idea. And so I walked through exactly my own ways that I was able to just kind of put my stake in the sand and make a new future happen. So thank you again for reading it.
Well, I think I've never been to Monroe, Wisconsin, where your practice is, but I think about it as I was reading it. I could see myself walking down the street and then coming to your. Yeah. Looks like is it on Main Street?
It is. It's a little cute square. It's very Norman Rockwell. Monroe, Wisconsin, we're known for, we only have 10,000 people, but we're known for our cheese. And we celebrate cheese every other year with a Cheese Days festival that draws 100,000 people from around the world. So it's a very cute square with light posts and trees that are lit in Christmas time. And it's a beautiful spot. And so it was natural to have my book, I wrote it here while I was in my office, Right Brain Rescue, because my mission is to just help the right brains of all of our health professionals and let them tap into their creativity like you do and use it in your practice, use it in medicine, make it a renaissance where we use the art and science with more exposure in medicine.
Yeah, we were doing group visits last fall and up until the first part of this year, on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And I always tried to bring some interesting music in. There's a song, It's called the Keep Going On song by the Bensons. And I just love that song. Every time I turn it on, everybody screams at me in the office, like, I don't want to hear that anymore. But, music and poetry and painting and sculpting and gardening, all the things that allow you to use your whole being is part of being a whole being. And it brings, it
Yes.
revitalizes you, don't you think?
Yes. Oh, absolutely, Wanda. And I think you've nailed it right there that we as our, I don't know if it's I would love to hear from other people around the world. Maybe it's just an American thing or maybe it's just a human thing. But I feel like we tend to measure how good we are at something before we can own it. So, for example, I was picked last in PE class for good reason. I am not coordinated with any sports, and I don't mind that. But you know what? That deterred me from even moving my body at all until a
Mhm.
later age when I was in my 40s and I decided to try for a marathon, which is my
Whoa.
gym teacher would probably roll over in her grave if she heard this. But this is the thing that we do with kids in school is we kind of say, well, if you're not good at that, we discourage that. Well,
Yeah.
but why? Creativity, you can just play music. You don't have to be good at singing it. You don't have to be good at dancing. Who cares how good or bad you are? There's no such thing. Just move your body, enjoy the music, paint the colors, draw. And that's the part that we need to lift the veil of this judgment we have on ourselves.
Absolutely. And, just the first time, I think I met you through Uli Isserlo.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I thought, gosh, I want to know who this woman is.
Aw.
So I just started reaching out a little bit here and
Yes.
there. And, your creativity comes through all the infographics that you've done.
Yes.
They're just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Uli's a great connector. He knows a lot of good people. So,
I know.
and I think his creativity comes with his systems thinking. He's always, leveling up and using his creativity that way.
Mhm.
And it's really neat to see. But yes, creativity can come in many ways. I mean, just even having group flow, this is considered group flow when you're having conversation and you kind of lose time and, you're really invested in the topics. And how awesome that this is happening. And think about this 10 years ago, nobody really ever used Zoom. I mean,
I know.
and think about this is now the best time, in my opinion, to practice medicine because we have so many things at our disposal that we are nimble and creative and we can be our own brand and make our own reality happen with how we want to take care of patients.
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps you from getting bored. When I started out my career in medicine as a pediatrician, and after a few years, I got really burned out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to even read the journals. They were boring. Okay,
Yeah.
all the statistics. Where was the human component? Okay,
Right.
and you've got these little kids here. The most human things on the planet are
Mm-hmm.
kids. Because they're just spontaneously who they
They
are.
are, oh my gosh, pediatrics was some of my favorite rotations because you could really act goofy and be creative. And I love one of my favorite things that I do miss. This is part of the trade-off, right? I had to make that decision to leave and I had to leave behind a lot of my sweet little pediatric patients because I loved being goofy with them and putting my stethoscope on their tummy and saying, okay, I can tell what you had for breakfast and just watching their eyes, all the magic that happens. What was it? Can I ask, did you have any fun little things that you like to do with your little kiddos?
Oh yeah, stuff like that,
Yeah.
or looking in the ear and saying, "Oh my God, I didn't know you put that in your ear." Try to be
Yep.
careful not to suggest that, but
Right.
oh yeah, just playing with them, loving up on them,
Yeah.
hugging them, kissing them. And I
Yeah.
always loved newborns.
Oh, they're
I
so
can
sweet.
still feel. I would always, and I'm not an osteopath, but I would always put my hand gently on their head.
Mhm.
My business partner does craniosacral therapy, but I thought, this baby's head's not feeling right,
Right. You have that
and
gift. Yeah. And that's that human gift of feeling that energy. And yeah, we would do nursery rounds in our residency doing cranial on the little babies in the nurseries. And how sweet. They're just these pure little, energetic, warm fuzz balls.
I know I miss that. That brings up an interesting point. I don't have a lot of pediatric patients. Now, we have some come in for our neural feedback and neurotherapy program, but I don't know why young parents don't realize that this is a different way, maybe a
Yeah.
better way.
And I think there's a lot of reasons, because I think we live in an information overwhelm that we can Google anything. And so there's so much information that I'm sure it overwhelms and confuses a lot of parents. I mean, my youngest kid is 11, but I have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. And I know even back when I was having them, there's so much information. Am I doing things wrong? Am I doing it right? Being a parent is very hard these days. So I think offering a holistic approach is a beautiful premise, but also we have to be realistic. Not a lot of 5-year-olds want to eat vegetables or take a supplement. So dealing with some of that can be challenging, but it's just nice to know that there's a lot of options, even that don't entail their own participation. Like you holding that newborn with the energy and some of that healing power of just touch and even sound therapy. A lot of options out there for little kids.
Oh yeah, sound play therapy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I posted a few days ago is about playing. Adults have forgotten how to play.
Mm-hmm.
We don't play with the kids because we're too busy. Now, I don't know what people have done this past year when they were home with their kids. That really were getting burned out with that. But
I taught my kids poker.
I did.
Yeah, I taught my kids poker. But, there's also so much pressure on parents to do everything for their kids, like make sure you entertain them and educate them and play with them. But, it's fun just to, like you said, just experiment. So I taught my kids poker. I knew other families in the pandemic that, took out their twister board and just, had some fun. And that's the thing, is we set our expectations so high for parents that we need to have our kids be super talented or creative or go-getters. Even just a 5-minute play session it works wonders. It's like teeny potent doses. So, sometimes parents suffer from that overwhelm of, oh gosh, well now I got to play with them and you want me to feed them organic food and exercise them. And now I got to play. Even just playing on a car ride. I would tell parents I call it moober duty, right? And it's in my book where I just would pick up my kids and ask them, okay, in order to ride in my car, my mom Uber, then you've got to pay the fee. And they said, what's the fee? I'm like, well, you got to tell me 2 things that happened in your day, then I don't know. And so just creating playful moments and being creative about how you approach life in just general curiosity, it goes a long way.
Now, you told a story about your son sitting in the back seat. I don't remember the details. He asked you a question or something?
Was it the colonoscopy one?
Maybe.
Okay, yeah, there's so many. All my kids give us great stories. His story was, what's your favorite word? He said, Mom, do you have a favorite word? And I said, I don't think so. Do you? And he said, yes, colonoscopy. And he had no idea what it meant. But he had heard it, thought it was the coolest sounding word. And so many of these little fun things that we see in their minds, they're just, in awe of the world. So it's just fun to imagine going back and that was probably one of the main reasons I wanted to write Right Brain Rescue, is a memoir, but also to capture some of these neat things that happen. All kids have those things.
Kids say the darndest things, ask the most unusual questions, sometimes in the most unusual places also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me think. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or
yeah, well, I think if anybody's listening and they're thinking, well, how can I be more creative? There's actually recipes for that.
That's right.
I like the recipe. I use the MIND recipe, MIND. It's easy to remember because creativity starts in the mind. And so M is mitochondria. And for people that are listening, mitochondria are those little powerhouses of the cells that you learned about in high school biology. And they really need certain things, and we neglect them if we don't sleep regularly, if we don't eat good foods, and we eat a lot of processed foods. So you can help your mitochondria have more energy. Most of them live in your brain and in your muscles, just by practicing some intermittent fasting or eating a lot of green, healthy, leafy vegetables. That's one thing. And so I is integrating. So we like to say creativity lives on the right side, but it's actually both. And it's integrating both the left and right hemispheres and how well they communicate. So integrating those hemispheres can be easy if you do bilateral activity. Take a walk, do some drumming, knit, anything bilateral can be very, very therapeutic to get that brain communicating. And then the last two, N and D, N is notice. It is the convergent, the inward thinking of creativity. So creativity is based in 2 kinds of thinking. It's that pattern recognition of internal focused thinking, but also D is divergent. So when you look at noticing patterns, that's easy to do when you journal. You can journal every day or notice, how am I feeling in my body? Where is that emotion living? What's the address of that emotion? I'm feeling tense and anxious. Is that in my neck or my back? And noticing, and then noticing what turns you on and makes you smile and what makes you feel happy. The D, the divergent, is more abstract thinking. So people think that's what creativity is, and that's only part of it. But that's the wide net that you cast, that you daydream. And, you wonder, like, well, what would it be like if I had my own office? Or what would it be like if I went virtual and I just retired early? Or what would it be like if I took a vacation here? And just having these daydreaming opportunities gets that brain going. And the more you practice creativity, the easier it gets.
Absolutely. And you're using every part of your being, all of your senses, your vision, your smell, your touch, your taste, your kinesthetic awareness of where you are in the world. It's just life is a beautiful dance.
It is.
And we have lots of partners that we can dance with.
Yes,
I
love that.
Partners in nature, partners in the written word, the sung word, all the sounds, that's really what I want people to get. I decided to do this Facebook group and open it to everyone. It's called Functional Medicine for Everyone. We've got a few people from around the world.
Love it.
We didn't make it necessary to be here in the Colorado area, but I just hope I think a few people are getting it. I don't see. Is there anybody out there that has a question for Dr. Salyer or me, or a comment, or you want to share something?
And even if it's not live, they can put something there and you can answer it later. That's the beauty of, I love this about, Facebook and internet. There's a lot of these asynchronous communications that go on, and people are always finding things that you have laid out. You've planted seeds, and weeks, months, years from now, somebody's going to stumble across this video and want to look up and see all the things that you talk about. And I love your quote about dancing. That should be on a pillow, Wanda. I think you should cross stitch that on a pillow. But it's beautiful that we have many partners, but we also have many kinds of music. We have many kinds of dance floors that we're going to dance across. And, it isn't, I think Wayne Dyer had a quote that said, it's not about how you get there to the other end of the dance floor. It's like the journey or the dance that you take. And that's what it is. It's just one day at a time.
Yeah, and that makes life exciting. So, Laura, how can people get in touch with you? Tom is going to put that in the...
Oh, thank you, Tom. Yes, just my website is the easiest. You can find a lot of things there. drlarasalyer.com. You can look at a free excerpt from my book, Right Brain Rescue. You can order it if you'd like. It's on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle, as well as Audible, if you want to listen to my nasal Wisconsin accent. Yes, that I would not recommend nighttime reading, because that's more of like it wakes you up. Nasal Wisconsin accents are not soothing. It's not like a nice lilt of a Southern drawl. It's more of a wake up kind of book. And then you can also just learn little things on there, and you can send a message as well.
Yeah, you also have a lot of classes through Teachable. It'll be on the website.
Yeah, it's on my website. I've got classes, blogs, but also if you want me to speak, if you have like a hospital administrator that's saying, boy, my whole staff is burned out, I don't know what to do, just say, why don't you talk to Dr. Lara? She does this. I've spoken at 38 different speaking engagements in the last 3 years. Yeah. And I love keynoting and providing workbooks and getting the audience dancing, clapping, drawing, painting, and doing improv. So it's really fun.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do in the fall. We're going to have a creative group class, and I'm going to invite you to come. Okay?
Oh, I hope I can make it. That would be great.
We'll be sure.
Awesome.
Okay. All righty. Any last? Oh, let's see. What is this? Love listening. I'm enjoying this very much. My question is, can functional medicine work with people with bipolar and for ADHD? Yes.
Absolutely. Functional medicine is like not one type of system. And I think Dr. Wanda can speak directly to that. lots of brains are challenged with ADD. We find patterns. There's the creativeness, right? Looking at patterns, and the patterns we see with ADD brains, we have a zinc copper ratio imbalances and all sorts of cool things that can happen. So
yeah, I tell everybody that we probably can help most people. One thing I can't do is grow a new limb. I haven't done that yet, but we're working on it. But there's so many things that we can do to help people get better. We may not totally solve every problem, but boy, can we make it better. And first of all, we have to find out what's going on at the root level, so that, functional medicine is root cause medicine. And so if anybody is out there has an interest, just make a comment and we'll try to reach out to you. Okay?
Yeah. That's great. And one more analogy, I think what you're saying, and it made me think of this just now, is functional medicine. It's like having a sunburn. And if you go out into the sun, you're going to keep burning your skin and it's not going to get better. But functional medicine can sometimes be like that time in the shade that you spend in the shade. You can heal your skin. You still might have some skin damage from that sunburn, but it can really make you feel better and help you plan for more safer excursions in the sun. So you're not going to damage yourself more.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Wow, I hate to end this, but I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
You're a wonderful human being, and
Likewise.
I praise you. And you just keep your strength and don't let things get you down ever.
You're so sweet.
Just think about the positive in the beautiful way that we live our life. So
absolutely,
we'll see you again one of these days. Okay.
Okay. You have a great weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.